Let's bring in our guest from Washington, D.C., Mariam Sadeghi, Senior Fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Mariam, thank you for coming on. I just talked about the image of the Iranian woman not wearing a headscarf, which went viral on social media. This kind of pattern of civil disobedience that we've been seeing by Iranian women, is it really enough to move the needle, though?
Yes, Iranians believe that it is. They are calling it a revolution, Iran revolution. It's fueled by these individual acts of courage, individual acts of civil disobedience, as you just said. Really, it's fueled by girls and women. It's led by girls and women, and it doesn't stop just at the issue of hijab and women's rights. However, Iranian society is not seeing any kind of future for themselves so long as this regime rules. And that's for every sector, every segment of society, every worldview, every lifestyle. The very poor protested in 2017, 2018, 2019. In 19, over 1,500 were massacred on the streets. This time, it's every strata of society. And as you mentioned in your report, excuse me, over 100 cities will be protesting tomorrow, Saturday, in solidarity with Iranians inside the country. And this is a revolution. It will continue until it's victorious.
Do you really foresee the Iranian regime, though, outmaneuvering the current wave of protests with the same propaganda, with the same crackdown tactics that it's used before?
Well, this is a very brutal regime. Unfortunately, it has shown how it has no restraint, no hesitation about killing Iranians, as it did in 2019, as it has done since the 1979 revolution. It's a regime that has killed thousands of people, including outside its own borders in democracies, assassination, terror attacks, executions, raping girls before they are executed so that they don't go to heaven, because in Islam, virgins will go to heaven. I think that it's a regime that will not hesitate to be violent towards these innocent people who are protesting, not just for freedom for themselves, but really peace in the Middle East, a world order that is significantly more secure and dignified. What needs to happen is that the world, and particularly the United States, needs to recognize this as a historic opportunity, rather than just talking about their right to protest, or rather also just the fact that they're seeking justice. The United States must be clear in its messaging, in its rhetoric, in its public diplomacy, that this is a revolution for freedom. And without freedom, without overthrow of this regime, justice cannot ever be possible. So if Biden really does stand with the people and their rights, he must also recognize their demand, their aspiration. These are people who are struggling for democracy. Just as Ukrainians are struggling for their democracy, Iranians are struggling for theirs. And the free world needs to get on the right side of history before it's too late. The time really is now to do the right thing. They need to walk away from the negotiating table with the tyrants, the brutes who are oppressing these girls and women. They need to make clear that no kind of appeasement will continue, and that the free world stands with the freedom-loving people of Iran.
But this time, just going back to what you mentioned earlier, that over 100 cities will be protesting tomorrow on Saturday. This time, they're not limited to a specific geographic location, as we said. We might be seeing more of these demonstrations, but these mass protests, are they plummeting in effectiveness?
Not at all. They are being joined by labor strikes, the fury and sorrow of people who are losing their loved ones. For example, today, a young woman was standing at her mom's grave, holding her own hair, a beautiful, striking, and yet very revolting image. The sorrow that people have in their hearts is right alongside a very deep fury, and that fury is only going to be compounded as the regime becomes more violent. This is not a people who are going to quit.
Mariam, thank you so much for speaking to us. Mariam Sadeghi, their Senior Fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute.